here.
Mhm.
And I'll take care of turning it up. It's not in the room. It's just for the stream.
So you're gonna turn that on?
Yeah, I'll turn it on
Okay.
when you're ready.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks.
You're not broadcasting now, are you?
No.
See, you're a PhD from UCLA.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Who'd you work with there?
I work with Yang She, who is the
Well, I'll give you a brief intro.
Yep. Let's get going.
Let me borrow your.
Yep.
You stand next to me. Hello? We're on? Good. Hi, this is Bob Westervelt. Today I'd like to introduce Jeehwan Kim, sitting right next to me, from MIT. He's an assistant professor in the material sciences department there in mechanical engineering, too. He's going to talk about 2D materials as well as things that have CV centers for new purposes, things like diamond and silicon carbide, and what this will do for the future. He got his PhD from UCLA and then moved to Watson Laboratories for IBM and then was wisely recruited by MIT. So
Thank you.
look forward to
Thank
it.
you. Thank you. All right. All right. So, thank you so much for having me here. It's my second time coming here in Harvard. It was first time was 3 years ago for interview here. Results came out. I came to MIT. Sorry about that. So, all right. So it's really good to have an opportunity to share our recent exciting data today. So I try to put like a very general title of my talk. So to be more specific, what our group is doing is to get around the silicon electronics. So first I have to question you: are you happy with your computer performance? Are you happy with your laptop? To me, I'm not so happy because I'm so lazy. So a lot of Windows, like 40, 50 Windows is all there. So it's easily I have to reboot and still for my type of people, like lazy people, not so happy with current computing. Then what do we need to blame? We have to blame, we have to ask, are you happy with the silicon? Are you happy with the silicon CMOS? Then I'm not happy with the silicon CMOS. Then I'm sure that my group members shouldn't be happy with the silicon CMOS because they have to make a progress. So our goal is to develop the new electronics by not using silicon. Then we try to change the paradigm of the current silicon-based electronics, not only change the material, but also try to change the computing scheme. So we try to move from the von Neumann computing method to non-von Neumann computing method. So this is whole picture of my group. So let me briefly introduce my people, my precious people here. So our lab opened in 2015. I named Nanoelectronics Group. So there's no nanoelectronics group, fortunately, in Boston area. So I just took it. But it's Professor Jin Kong's lab is nanoelectronics material group. Yeah. So it's unique name of the group, at least in the town. So these are my group of people. First, one of the most important activity here in my group is non-silicon electronics. So we want to make better electronics by not using silicon-based electronics. So these group of people are working on that. And second group of people, so current silicon-based electronics, you have to rely on the very rigid and thick silicon wafer. So our group, this group of people, are doing the flexible electronics. Like we would like to have a single crystalline semiconductor film membrane in a freestanding form, so then you can have a high performance electronics, but it's flexible, so then you can stack them up. Here in Professor Philip Kim is working on the 2D material stack to make a 2D heterostructure. Eventually, it's really, really flexible. So the goal is quite similar, but what we are trying to do is to make a very thin membrane with a three-dimensional semiconductor, conventional semiconductor. These group of people are working on that, and last, these group of people are working on non-von Neumann computing method, which is neural peak computing. So here, my postdoc Shinyan Choi came here to check out if I give a talk about his work well. So he's here, so he's watching me. So I'm gonna do my best to describe his work as beautiful as possible. So these group of people are heavily working on that. Okay, so move on to. So now let's move on to this topic. So why you shouldn't be satisfied with the silicon electronics. This is the topic of this talk. So non-silicon electronics, that's what I'm going to talk. First, to talk about our work, let me briefly summarize what's going on in current electronic industry for the last few decades. Okay, So far, the very basic building block of electronics is what? Is a wafer, right? We all start from the wafer. Typically from silicon wafer because of the money, right? Silicon wafer is cheapest. So here, most of CMOS company has been relying on silicon wafer to build, these days FinFET, to build the CMOS chips on silicon wafer transistor. So silicon wafer is essential, but it's really cheap. These days, 8-inch is less than $25, and 12-inch is about $50 to $60. You can easily, it's so cheap, right? So with this cheap wafer, you can build a very expensive circuit on it, right? So, and for solar cell, what is the mainstream of solar cell? Mainstream material, still this is silicon. Even if we know there are so many other material that can have a much higher efficiency than silicon, but we have been stuck on silicon. For example, gallium arsenide solar cell, its efficiency can go up to 30%. If you stack up the 3-5 material, you can have a 42% efficiency, but we have been stuck on silicon. Why? Because simply this 6-inch gallium arsenide for $1,000 is super expensive. So assistant professor cannot afford to make a lot of gallium arsenide solar cells. It's so expensive. And also for LED, this is also interesting guy because we cannot use silicon. So there's no choice but using other direct band gap material to emit the light. So the most popular material so far is gallium nitride. So gallium nitride, in order to grow high performance LED, gallium nitride LED, of course, you need to have a super expensive wafer, which is typically silicon carbide. Silicon carbide, 6-inch, $10,000, and you have to beg the vendor to sell this wafer. It's rare. You can easily buy 4-inch wafer, and that 4-inch wafer is about like $3,000 to $4,000 still. It's like for an assistant professor like me, it's so expensive. So I really have to find a way to reuse this kind of substrate. So then you don't have to buy multiple wafers. You can just buy one, then you just keep using it. So that is a whole purpose of existing my group. So then what's next? When you have the wafer, then how can you build a device? You have to do the epitaxial growth of different materials on the wafer. That way, you can have the device that is of your flavor. Okay, so epitaxial process is tricky, especially if you want to use silicon wafer as a template to grow a device layer. Is extremely challenging because there are so many useful different types of semiconductor. But if you use a silicon, the epitaxial layer, device layer that you can grow on is only just this range. It's working? Yeah. Very narrow range. You have to miss the very important and useful materials all around here. Then how can you solve this problem? At the moment, actually there's no actual solution. So, for example, why? For example, here, wafer price, silicon, then germanium is relatively less expensive wafer, but it's much more expensive than silicon. Gallium arsenide more expensive. Indium phosphide, silicon is also expensive. So that is really prohibiting the advancement of current electronics. So how we can solve this problem? That is a mission of our group. So back in 2013, when I was working for IBM Jeehwan Research Center, I have invented a method to get around this problem. So we invent the name of the process called the 2D material-based layer transfer process, which is as following. We have the graphene layer on some donor wafer. Then you grow single crystalline epitaxial material on graphene on donor wafer. As long as this is single crystalline material grown on graphene, you can easily separate the interface. You can easily peel them off. Because graphene doesn't make any strong bonding to anybody. Graphene is 2D material. So it's a slippery interface. So once you grow single crystalline material, you can peel off. Then now you can reuse very expensive wafer on and on as long as graphene layer is there. That is a concept generated when I was in IBM. Then you can just reuse substrate. You can take the device layer and put it onto some host wafer. Then you can keep reusing this substrate. So far, for the last decades, there are many options of wafer recycling technology, but but nothing is satisfied all this strong requirement. But this graphene-based layer transfer process can require all this important requirement because you can easily. It's gonna come. It's gonna come. Yeah. All right. So you can graphene forms a very weak bonding, so you can just peel off. Then your remaining wafer is just non-damaged. It's not damaged. It's pristine. Then you can just keep growing, peel off, keep growing, peel off. And more importantly, this peeling off process just takes 1 second because of mechanical release. That's also very important features. So let me go a little more into scientific background of this two-dimensional material-based layer transfer process. Let me call it from now this the 2DLT process. So 2DLT process is a layer transfer process that we developed. So first generation 2DLT process developed in IBM, which was as following. So back then, 2013, our group developed a way to grow wafer scale single crystalline graphene. Then after that, we thought of how we can usefully use this single crystalline graphene. Then immediately, because I'm an epi guy by training, okay, so graphene is single crystalline. Then why not using graphene as epitaxial seed? Then you can grow something on graphene, you can peel off. So that's what happened in 2013. So we use single crystalline graphene, then grow gallium nitride because it's easy pick. Why I choose gallium nitride? Because graphene has a hexagonal lattice, and gallium nitride hexagonal lattice, just an easy pick. We just picked the gallium nitride. We performed epitaxial growth of gallium nitride on graphene. It was perfect single crystalline. We're so happy about it. Then we take a picture after peeling off the IBM logo. We peel off gallium nitride. And also, important thing is, after you peel off, we found that the graphene is still on the wafer. So then you don't have to re-graphitize the wafer. All right. So then when you peel off, it's atomically flat surface. Graphene on the substrate is like a 5 angstrom RMS roughness, mirror surface. So then the other layer that peeled off, the other side of the surface is also atomically flat. That means you can do just a bonding process like Soitec does. Soitec has been monopolizing the SOI for a long time, and the key there is that they have to make a very atomically flat interface. So this idea works in 2013, and 2014 was published. And then after joining IBM and MIT, I have to answer the one very big question. But even if I really want to know about this, while I was in IBM, I'm not allowed to go deeper into the scientific topic because you have to make money, right? IBM Research Center, they don't care about the science typically. And that was kind of part of the reason that I try to sneak out of my company. But anyways, that was my question. Where is the epitaxial seed? Okay, when we make a single crystalline epitaxial graphene on silicon carbide, the structure is as following. We have a silicon carbide, we have a single crystalline graphene, then we have a gallium nitride. But then silicon carbide lattice is also hexagonal. So then my assumption was right. Is this right? In the paper, in Nature Communication paper, I strongly said graphene is a seed layer, so that's why I grew single crystalline gallium nitride at wafer scale. But something is stuck in my heart. Maybe silicon carbide could be a seed layer because graphene is really thin, just a monolayer. So, and also, similar time frame, there's some publication in Nature Materials. If you drop the water on the graphene on the substrate, then the wetting angle can change depending on the underlying substrate. That kind of gave us a hint. Maybe underlying substrate could be the seed layer for growing single crystalline gallium nitride. Maybe graphene doesn't do anything on this epitaxial process. So what I have done is just simple. So we peel off single crystalline graphene from the silicon carbide. Then we transfer this single crystalline graphene on amorphous oxide. Then we perform the epitaxial growth of gallium nitride. If graphene is really the seed layer, you are supposed to have a single crystalline still, even if this graphene is on the amorphous phase. But result was quite shocking. It's also bad news at the moment. I already make a strong claim in the paper. Graphene is the seed layer. But by looking at that, we are so shocked. It's polycrystalline. So at the moment, it was really bad news. Oh my God, what should I do? I made a strong claim that graphene can be the seed layer, but it's polycrystalline. It's the strong sign that underlying substrate affect your epitaxial quality of the top overlaying layer. But then it can be really good news at the end. The reason is that if the underlying substrate becomes the seed layer, then you can copy-paste underlying substrate through monolayer graphene, meaning that you can give me any type of extremely expensive wafer. That's fine. We're going to have one monolayer graphene. We can copy-paste this epi layer from the substrate. We can do the epitaxial growth through the graphene, so then you can keep reusing your substrate. So first experiment was as following. We transferred the monolayer graphene on 100 gallium arsenide wafer. Of course, it's expensive. Then we performed the epitaxial growth of gallium arsenide 100. No, gallium arsenide film. Then if graphene is still seed layer, you are not supposed to have a 100 gallium arsenide. You are supposed to have a 111 gallium arsenide. But we get the single crystalline gallium arsenide. Wow. Underlying substrate, really the seed layer. Then, in order to double confirm, we transfer the polycrystalline graphene on 100 gallium arsenide. Polycrystalline graphene is given from Professor Jin Kong. We transfer, we grow, then still single crystalline. We double, triple confirmed. Your underlying substrate become your seed layer. And also, we did some TEM to see the atomic alignment through graphene. As you can see, there is a monolayer graphene, but gallium arsenide aligned to the underlying substrate through graphene. So of course, after that, we are able to easily peel this gallium arsenide. Oh, it's really weak. Gallium arsenide. Oh, yeah, that's better. Yes, analog. Okay. Looks better? Okay. So we are able to peel off easily, as you can see here. Okay, then what's next? Okay, let me summarize this before we go more about that. So conventional epitaxy. You have a substrate, you grow, then it forms very strong covalent or ionic bonding here. There's no way that you can peel them off. Remote epitaxy, we call this remote epitaxy because truly we have a epitaxy in remote distance. So we have a substrate, we have a graphene, we grow in remote distance with the same orientation, then we peel off. So what's next? We have to apply this to whole different kind of wafers. So idea completely work for any types of wafer. Oh, it's working. Okay. Any types of wafer here. So it works for gallium arsenide. It works for indium phosphide. If you go on that direction, it's the price. So price goes up. So gallium phosphide, we can easily grow gallium phosphide through graphene, and gallium arsenide different orientation, and gallium nitride again on graphene on gallium nitride. So this means monolayer graphene plus wafer is just become copy machine. So our goal is to make all the wafer company bankrupt. So then so we copy paste any type of a single crystalline wafer and much cheaper price. That's then what's the impact? So far electronic industry is reluctant to move on to non-silicon electronics because of the wafer cost. So we really hope that this technology can be adopted by industry, so then we can help the industry make some more progress with non-silicon electronics. Then let's do some more scientific stuff here. We really need to understand more. First question was, Okay, it worked for gallium nitride and gallium arsenide beautifully. Then is it going to work for silicon? It's an easy question, but there's no motivation because silicon is cheap, so you don't have to copy paste. It's just you just buy the silicon. But in order to answer for the scientific question, we perform the remote epitaxy of silicon on graphene on silicon. The answer, the result is as following: just poly. There is no remote epitaxy through graphene from the silicon substrate. Also, we're kind of shocked. Why is poly? Why there's no remote epitaxy? Then we try to find out the critical graphene thickness, interlayer thickness, to secure the remote epitaxy. So here, we succeeded to do the single crystalline through monolayer graphene for gallium arsenide. Then if you increase the layer, two monolayer of graphene, you get the poly. Oh, there's certain correlation. Okay, what's the difference between this guy and that guy? It's gallium arsenide has ionicity in their bonding, 30%. Okay, but then okay, we can try more. So because gallium nitride has a 50% ionicity, then you can grow single crystalline gallium nitride through bilayer graphene too. If you go through tri-layer, you get the poly. Lithium fluoride is interesting. Lithium fluoride, 90% ionicity, up to 3 layers of graphene, you still got the single crystalline. So we have a strong evidence that this is all because of ionicity of the involved material, involved three-dimensional material. But then now you ask a question, does this work only for graphene? Here's an answer. Okay, we play with this ionicity with the 3D material by fixing the non-polar graphene in the middle. So now we change the polarity of the 2D material by putting the HBN, which has the polarity, lateral polarity of the bonding. As you can see, it's not that transparent, not as transparent as graphene. As you can see, we perform the epitaxial growth of gallium nitride on monolayer boron nitride on gallium nitride. As you can see, it's really interesting. There's a mixed orientation. There are mixed orientations here. Some are seeded from HBN, some are seeded from gallium nitride. If you increase, then gallium nitride remote epitaxial seeding effect is disappearing. Then if HBN is three layer, there's no remote epitaxial effect anymore. It's just seeded from the boron nitride. So polarity of 3D material and 2D material does matter for determining if you can have a remote epitaxy or not. That's what we found. This is DFT calculation data. As you can see, the field penetration through graphene is much, much higher than field penetration through HBN. Right? So what is the technical meaning? How can you apply this learning? Of course, so far, there's no concrete way to peel off the functional oxide so far, even if it's supposed to be really useful, because functional oxide, if you apply the strain, there are so many interesting physics to be found. But there's no way to have a freestanding functional oxide. But functional oxide means it's almost completely ionic bonded material. That way, we have a tri-layer graphene through STO and lithium fluoride, all this functional oxide, we can still have a single crystalline functional oxide, and we can able to peel off, then we can have a flexible functional oxide here. So the conclusion, ionics governs graphene transparency to the intermolecular interaction. That was conclusion. So what's the implication of this work is, 2DLT can widen the application of non-silicon electronics, as I been emphasizing. So if this technology become mature, you really don't have to worry about the cost of the wafer. So then, single atom thick graphene can replace, 1 millimeter thick expensive wafers eventually. So then, quick impact could be from the CMOS industry, because the scale is going down all the way up to 14 nanometer these days. You really need to still work on silicon CMOS, silicon FinFET. Then what's next? There are so many options. One of the options is 3.5 non-silicon transistor. This may solve that kind of problem too. Also, of course, so obvious, the solar cell. So you really want to work on the 3.5 solar cell because efficiency is really high. Then you just cut down the cost. If a wafer cost of the 3.5 is same as silicon, of course, dollar per watt wise, it makes sense. So we are working on making gallium arsenide solar cell using this 2D-LT technique. Another impact could be from the power electronics because, as you can see from here, power electronic figure of merit, silicon and gallium nitride. Of course, gallium nitride is much better material than silicon for power electronics. But again, same problem. Wafer cost. This 2D-LT technique could solve that kind of problem. Okay. So far, I was talking about how we can cheaply use non-silicon materials here. Now, I'd like to talk about how we can add the functionality. Okay, so that is not allowed so far because of the thickness of the wafer, rigidity of the wafer. So this is my second topic. Okay, so all right, it's typically called these days ubiquitous electronics. So for example, these days, electric vehicle and unmanned vehicle, this is also because of the scaling limit. So electronics guy heavily working on transistor, but now they are looking for the room to jump in. So the car industry is perfect for that because the electronics in the car is not as advanced as the CMOS. So first thing that the car industry that really want to do is a heads-up display. They really want to have the display, transparent display on the front of your car window. But can you use silicon wafer? Thick, rigid wafer? Of course not, because it's rigid. But because your window is curved. So how can you make electronics on a curved surface? Also, we all know that if you have a solar cell on your car, of course, if Tesla install the solar cell on the roof, of course, you can maximize your driving distance. But one of the problem is silicon is rigid, but your car top surface is not flat, it's curved. So that kind of problem also needs to be solved. And wearable electronics is also becoming very important these days because we have a fancy, highly performing devices, but how can you implant, how can you put that kind of electronics into your body? Right? So wearable electronics also needs some high quality, high performance device with some flexibility. Also, IoT sensor network, we need a very, very cheap computer. Then you install all the sensors all around the world, but you cannot live with rigid silicon wafer. Also, you cannot work with expensive wafer. The price needs to be really, really low. Okay, so for that, we strongly believe that the 2D-LT process can solve this type of problem because this can give you the flexible single crystalline semiconductor, as you can see here. So what's the implication for ubiquitous electronics? You can now, this three-dimensional conventional semiconductor can be stacked up using tape process, like a 2D heterostructure process. So you can have all this sticker, single crystalline semiconductor sticker, you can stack them up. Then you can have a hetero integration with flexible functionality. So these are the things going on in my lab. So first thing is this thing is really interesting. So this project is funded by Amore Pacific, which is a cosmetic company. So how cosmetic industry related to 2D-LT? I didn't know for the first time. So I just asked them, what's your problem? And they said they really want to measure the strain on their skin after washing your face. We all have the problem. In the morning, when you wash your face, you really have to apply the cream. Otherwise, you're going to get older very quickly, right? So they really want to know the exact amount of strain so then they can customize the cream, customize the moisturizer. So they asked me, is there any way to do that? So back then, I was totally into 2D-LT. Of course, 2D-LT can solve this problem because we can make a freestanding piezoelectric materials. So, okay, we can put the freestanding piezoelectric material right on top of your pore. So we're gonna measure it. They're convinced. They gave us some money. So we started doing that. Result is quite. We are going there. We are putting some single crystalline gallium nitride, the piezoelectric material, on the hole on the PDMS, then this hole size is matching to your pore size. So you're going to put that skin patch, then you're going to measure. Of course, you have to take the wire out. So that is one project, very, very interesting. Another project that we are pursuing right now is like Oriental medicine. So when you go to Oriental doctor, they measure your pulse. They measure your pulse, then they tell you everything, right? You have a cancer, you have some problem in your liver, they can tell you everything. So what the heck is going on, right? So it can be very subjective, right? So if you go another doctor, they say, oh, you don't have a cancer, but you have a liver problem, right? So to solve this kind of problem, we can collect the very objective data by putting the piezoelectric material as a sensor on your skin using 2D-LT. So that's what we are trying to do these days. So let's try to collect the pulse patterns from your wrist. So what's going to happen? That's the one program that we are doing, and this program is to make a micro LED. How 2D-LT can impact on it? Because so far, micro LED has a processing problem because you really need to have RGB with a high quantum efficiency on one substrate, on one location. But for example, the highest quantum efficiency material for blue is gallium nitride, 3 nitride. But highest quantum efficiency material for red is 3,5. So 3,5, 3 nitride cannot go onto the same substrate because its lattice is totally different. But if we use 2D-LT technique, we can grow high quantum efficiency LED on ideal substrate. They can peel off, we can stack them up. So this program is also going on. And also this program is also very interesting because 2D-LT works so well for the oxide, functional oxide material because of strong ionicity. So what we can do is we grow magnetostrictive material on graphene on STO, then we peel off. Then we grow piezoelectric material on graphene on STO, we peel off. Then you have magnetostrictive material, and you have a piezoelectric material. You can couple them, then you can have a multiferrate effect by concept. So we can do this based on this concept. We are so far we are halfway successful. We are able to peel off the piezoelectric single crystalline piezoelectric material and single crystalline magnetostrictive material, then put them on. And also, we apply this for the micro battery because we can have a single crystalline electrolyte. Also, we are developing some way to grow single crystalline silicon carbide thin membrane to be used for quantum electronics. Okay. And also, we cannot miss the chance to use this 2D material into this activity because 2D material is extremely flexible. Extremely flexible. Our goal is to mix and match the thin 3D material, thin 2D material all together. The device design can be done with a lot of freedom by doing so. So after the graphene, community has been exploring so many different types of 2D materials. So one of the justifications is the ultimate flexibility. What was the progress so far is there are so many excellent 2D heterostructural devices have been reported, especially from Professor Philip Kim. Shows so many interesting physics and device functionality was shown. But one of the, I wouldn't say the problem, one of the bottleneck is the Professor Philip Kim's student spent a lot of time to secure the one very complicated structure by doing the Scotch flake method. So I know the pain. I know this is painful. Luis, right? You tell me it's painful, right? So you have to secure the certain number of the layers in each time you stamp. So it's kind of painful. So how can we solve the Professor Philip Kim's problem? So then Professor Philip Kim's postdoc student can finish the structure quickly, so then they can sleep more. Okay, so what we try to do for that is as following. So, okay, we try to harvest wafer scale 2D materials, very thick 2D materials into monolayer by using some mechanics. I cannot say all the details about that because it was recorded right now. This wasn't published yet. But anyways, what we are doing is we grow really, really thick 2D materials on sapphire wafer. Then we peel off. Then we just separate them one by one. You can see here. So as you can see here, this is the 2-inch wafer scale tungsten sulfide separated from the thick tungsten sulfide on the wafer. Then we transfer on the 8-inch wafer. This is magnified image, and we are quite happy to see this PL mapping. So we did a PL mapping of this monolayer tungsten sulfide, completely separated from the very thick tungsten sulfide on sapphire. As you can see, it shows the direct band gap, very strong PL.
How thick is the nickel?
Nickel secret. I'm just kidding. No, nickel is like a couple hundred nanometer.
Oh, so it's like.
Yeah. So then we did some fine scan of PL intensity. I asked my student to do the fine scan on wafer scale. It takes 3 days for him to finish it. So I feel sorry for him. But anyways, we got the truly monolayer signal from the PL and boost up the PL intensity by doing the all wafer scale. So also why this is so meaningful because typically in order for you to grow monolayer all over the wafer, it takes really long time to get rid of the nuclei on top of the existing nuclei. So there is a way to grow completely monolayer 2D material on the wafer, but it takes a really long time. So that one is relieve that kind of stress. You just whatever you just grow really thick, then you just split them out. That's our strategy. Then we try to make some halo structure by using this technique. So we encapsulate the tungsten sulfide with a boron nitride in the wafer scale, and compared to just the tungsten sulfide transferred, monolayer tungsten sulfide transferred on dioxide, it shows a much stronger PL intensity. And we try to stack this up using wet transfer method, which is quite popular in the community. You put the PMMA, then you scoop up the 2D materials. But as you can see, even with the encapsulation, the PL intensity is really low. Even compared to unencapsulated sample, with dry transfer, PL intensity is lower. Also, we make some wafer scale vertical transistor in wafer scale. Then we did some the statistics. So we make 80 some 100 of device, and we did some statistics. Then this is the mapping of the on-off ratio of the device. That was dry stack. That was wet stack. As you can see, there's clear difference. So wet stacking gives you a lot of variation in device, but dry stacking makes a very uniform device all on the arrays. So our goal is what? Our goal is to mix and match the 3-dimensional flexible materials and 2-dimensional materials, all of them together. So then we can have some more freedom to design the hetero structures. Okay. Yeah. No, so we don't have a glow box. Assistant professor doesn't have money to buy 100K glow box. I have to save money. So all right. So let's go. Next topic. So we still need to solve the current existing electronics problem, which is von Neumann computing method. So one of the solution for it is a neuromorphic computing that has been out there in the community for more than 10 years. And I'm going to talk about this. So as a material scientist, we try to solve the existing problem in the community from the very basic of material science. So I'm going to talk about that. Okay, so motivation. Okay, you know this event already, of course. So 2011, in Jeopardy show, IBM Watson's supercomputer beats a human being. So it was a big event. It was, you saw this in the newspaper, right? That time we had a free lunch. We had a free lunch at that time when IBM Watson wins against a human being. All right, and very recently, this guy is very famous in Korea. He is a champion in Go. This guy is very famous, but this guy lost against the computer for the Go. So Google makes a big case out of it, right? But is this fair? Is this fair? Absolutely, this is not fair at all, because we have like a 8-inch wafer scale brain, but Google used this supercomputer. This computer is fully packed in the room. They're seriously connected. How can this be fair? It's not fair at all. And even with that, this guy wins just once, at least once, against the Google AlphaGo. So it's not fair at all. Let me talk more about why this is not fair at all. So human brain has, this keeps dying. Human brain has the 10 to the 14 synapses and 10 to the 11 neurons. With this, a lot of synapses and neurons, power consumption is just 20 watts, which is equivalent to one hamburger in, what's the famous hamburger place here? No, it's we always come there to. Yeah, that one. Anyway, so just burger, right? Burger creates enough energy to compute our brain, 8-inch wafer scale, our brain. So how can we mimic this brain in computing method, non-von-Neumann computing method, which is this Memristor? You must have heard about Memristor in many occasions. What's Memristor? Memristor is a two-terminal device that can generate the on-off signal by aligning the ion channels in just very simple device. Then by changing the weight of this conducting channel, you can generate different synaptic weight. That is a Memristor. It's one Memristor equivalent to one synapse. So it's possible to emulate this brain function by making the arrays of Memristor. Then how many 10 to 14 synapses can be done with Memristor in the size of the letter paper? But let's talk about CMOS chip. CMOS chip contains 10 to the 9th transistor. Then in order to emulate the human synapse with CMOS, at least you need a 10 transistor. For one synapse, 10 transistor. Okay, then CMOS chip equivalent to 10 to the 8th synapse only, 10 to the 5th neurons only. Then in order to operate 10 to 14 synapses like a human brain, you need a 10 megawatts. Ridiculous, it's not fair at all, right? So 10 megawatts. And the footprint, you need a 10 to 7 chips. It's almost impossible. Well, possible because we have a space in the room, so you can put a lot of computers in it. So there's a whole motivation that you really push for this Memristor technology. Okay, but it's not that easy to use Memristor as a human synapse replacement because your device requirement for right Memristor device is super high. So these are the requirements for the artificial synapse using Memristor. These 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 requirements has to be completely satisfied to emulate the human synapse. The most important among them is uniformity of the device. And you have to be able to control this Memristor artificial synapse. That way you can control the synaptic weight in the artificial synapse. Then in order to meet all these requirements, you really need to know how to control these conducting channels in Memristor. But so far, that has been the biggest problem. So far, it's really hard to meet all these requirements. Typically, if you satisfy this, then one goes up, one goes down. That kind of situation has been happening so far. So what was the problem here? This goes down to the material science, very basic of material science. So what is the source of device variation so far? That is because we have been using amorphous solid material as the artificial synapse. So the way the Memristor work is the following. Again, you apply the plus-minus bias into amorphous switching medium. Then your ion aligns to generate the 0, 1, 2, 3 signal. But amorphous space has like so many of defects, meaning that there are so many of candidates, so many conducting channel candidates. So each time you switch, there's no guarantee that one aligned vacancy can be your conducting channel. Whenever you switch, it can move around. Sometimes it forms the filament here, it forms filament here. It's so random. It's by nature. But you cannot help but using amorphous space as a switching medium because you need to guarantee that your defect, your vacancy, is aligned from top to the bottom. Then you need to have a lot of defect to do so. Then the question is, why not just using single crystal material? So then you can have a control. But the problem is, single crystal material doesn't have a defect, doesn't have enough defect to make this kind of conducting channel. That's the biggest problem. So back then, like 2015, my postdoc, Shin Choi, came to my office to have a job. He asked me to have a job. So I don't have a job. I was just hired. I don't have a job. Then okay, so why do I need to hire you? Then Shin said, neuromorphic is hot. It's very important. Then what is your problem? Then we start having some discussion for like 3-4 hours. Then we meet again. Then I start liking him. So I cannot help but hiring him. But we came up with a solution with that discussion 2 years ago. Okay, why not single crystalline? Of course, single crystalline doesn't have a defect. But you can control the defect, at least, in single crystalline. Also, when we have a discussion, this famous book, Phase Transformation in Metal and Alloy, comes into my mind. That was a basic kinetics book for the undergrad, material science undergrad. If you go to page number 102 of this book, it shows the answer. Okay? If you have the dislocation in the crystal, it's going to be a quantum path of diffusion because it's just aligned. This is aligned channel. So you can easily inject some dopant, then it can be the quantum path. All right, then what you can do? You can make the dislocation through the single crystalline, then it's become your controlled quantum path of the ions. So then you can confine this ion into threading dislocation, then you can switch. That was the basic idea. Then we start immediately. Then to do so, we have to pick the right switching material, right conducting metals. Okay, so here we think about what kind of switching medium should we use. Of course, it has to be single crystalline, and also very important thing, when you inject the metal ions through the dislocation, this conducting ion has to be stuck inside the dislocation. If there is solid solubility of metal into switching medium, then it's gonna run away. Your conducting cation will run away because it can diffuse into your single crystalline. So very important requirements is there shouldn't be any solid solubility of metals into switching medium. Also, it has to be epitaxyable on silicon wafer to be compatible with the current CMOS process. The easy answer is cheap silicon wafer. Now, how can you make a dislocation in silicon? You just grow silicon germanium on silicon, then there is a lattice mismatch between silicon germanium and silicon, then you can easily make a threading dislocation by changing the lattice mismatch. So we picked the silicon germanium as a switching medium. Then what kind of metal? Of course, it has immiscible to switching medium. So you can easily find, because many metal are immiscible to silicon and silicon germanium. And this metal shouldn't make any compound with switching medium. For example, if this metal goes in, if this metal make a compound with silicon, for example, this metal forms a silicide, then there is no more switching because your metal is already stuck at the sidewall of the dislocation. So you have to do some actually very, basic metallurgical design to do so. So what's perfect? We go through all the phase diagram. Then silver was the perfect and right choice because it's immiscible. Silver doesn't want to be mixed into silicon. So we picked the silver as a cation. Then we fabricate the device. Then we have excellent switching behavior, very robust switching behavior. Without dislocation, by just growing intrinsic silicon on P plus silicon wafer, you don't have a switch. You really need a dislocation to switch this device. What's the consequence? As mentioned, we use a single crystalline. So it has super uniformity. It's super uniform. When you cycle 100 times, there's no variation in step voltage. So ideal kind of worked. So your cation was completely caged into dislocation is extremely uniform. All right? But one thing, we are not so happy with on-off ratio of this device. On-off ratio has to be more than 100. But this on-off ratio is just a 10. It's hard to emulate the human brain using this low on-off ratio. So there's another solution. Why this on-off ratio is so low? Because your dislocation pipe is Bogas spectra of your dislocation pipe is just 1 atom size. Then what's the strategy? It's just widen the dislocation. Dislocation widening technique has been developed 20, 30 years ago in silicon germanium industry, silicon germanium community. So, people didn't want to do TEM to count the dislocation. So they made a chemical solution to open the dislocation pipe so then they can measure the number of dislocation. That is a characterization technique. Here we use that technique to widen up the dislocation space so then it can accept more silver ions so then we can have a higher on-off ratio. So by the idea, it completely works. As you can see, on-off ratio is tremendously improved. Its digital on-off ratio is 10 to the 4th by opening up the dislocation. And this figure was taken by my student, and it took almost 1 month to eventually found this silver caged into dislocation. So I spent $10,000 in CNS to get that image. Very expensive. Anyways, it's all about money today's talk, right? I have to. Okay. Anyways, so then what's another very interesting thing? Switching mechanism. Okay. You may question. There must be just a random dislocation, so many dislocations. How can you have just only one single dislocation make this device operating? The answer is you don't have to worry about it. If you just inject the silver into many of these dislocations, there is only one dominating dislocation to switch. How we could prove? We make the device with a different electrode size from tens of nanometers to the micron scale. They all operate the same way, meaning that the dislocation, there's only one or few dominating dislocation, which has a role in switching. Okay, so what is the consequence of the confinement? Of course, you have a very uniform device performance and long retention. Long retention means once silver ion goes into the dislocation cage, it's just locked up there, so it doesn't go anywhere. That means the long retention. As the metallurgy concept says, it works for the Memristor device. You can see retention is really long and endurance high. Another important thing is this dislocation idea solve the problem in actual training of the artificial synapse. So for training the artificial synapse, digital switching doesn't matter. We really have to do the potentiation and depression of your artificial synapse by generating pulse, multiple pulse. It creates a thicker filament. If you keep injecting filament, your conducting state is updated. If you keep retracting the ion, then your conducting state is reduced. So that controls the weight in artificial synapse. But so far, the problem of the community, because they have to enforcefully inject the ions into amorphous phase. At some point, your amorphous medium feels a pressure. So it doesn't want to take the ion anymore. So at some point, it's saturating like this. If you depress, it suddenly goes down. Then you cannot do the accurate computing by doing so. Each time you apply the pulse, you have to manipulate the weight controllably. This doesn't work. You really need to have a linear update, linear potentiation, linear depression. So epiram with a dislocation kind of solve this problem because we have enough space to take the ions. So then if you keep updating your weight by injecting more ions, it feels happy because you have enough space. So this problem, this is the biggest problem so far. It's a problem solved by using the metallurgical method. Then we did some actual neuromorphic training with a simulation. We didn't make artificial arrays yet, but we try to estimate what's going to happen if we make arrays. Then with this linearity and on-off ratio, we are able to get the 95% recognition accuracy for handwriting. So software limit is 97%, is almost close to the software limit because of the improved analog synaptic update. You can see. Okay. The additional benefit is because of the epi, you can do the bandgap engineering to shut off all the leakage current. Because the epi, you can do PIN, NIP, NIN. You can do the bandgap engineering. So you're able to shut off all the leakage current by doing so. Okay, because of time, so let me wrap up my talk here. So what is the message here? We are able to actually, using this very basic material scientific knowledge and metallurgical alloy design, we are able to solve these 6 problems that exist in the community so far. So we are really excited to use this learning to make actual arrays, and my group, people are working really hard to make actual synaptic arrays to make a neuromorphic computer. Okay, thank you so much for your attention.
Great talk. Questions?
For gallium arsenide case, it's random. There's no guarantee because bonding is the same for top and bottom. So if you peel off, then half left on the substrate, half follows the film. Yeah.
Other questions?
Do you have any other test benches tested for the epiraM, like other than MNIST, like bigger neural networks?
We start making the arrays. You can just do the simulation. But yeah, we could do that. We haven't done the simulation yet. We just did the MNIST because MNIST itself is already so difficult to be realized in real synapse. That is the current status.
Other questions? Let me ask one. How long before I can? The hottest thing sort of in computer science, it seems, are these deep neural
Mm-hmm.
all of that. How long do you think this will sort of morph into the handheld, assistant that I can?
I really want to make it happen in 5 years. This is my wish. I hope. But if everything goes right, why not in 5 years? That's our goal. And to do so, I have to keep Shinyan.
Okay, well, fair enough. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and people in the class, please sign in down here. Thank you. Oh, that's a nice job.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, I did neural nets back in 1985.
Oh my
for
God,
Topfield.
1985.
And then it wasn't working because we were using op amps, and so I gave up in about 1990.
Now it's time to go back.
Well, yeah, a few years ago I was in
Yeah.
Berkeley, and these guys started telling me about this.
Time to go back. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Thank you.
Let's work together. All right.
저 IBM에서 2015년 여름
맞아.
같이 거기도 가고 그랬잖아요.
너 조용히 안 해?
네, 저는
너 여기서 여기 포닥?
지금 하버드에서 포닥해요.
아, 그렇구나.
아 그래서 안 그래도 보스턴 와서 교수님한테 연락 드렸는데 카톡이 바뀌셨는지 답이 없으셔가지고.
아, 잠깐만 있어봐. 아, 예. 저 한번 방문해 주시죠. 톡 한번 해주시죠. 제가 인비테이션 한번 보낼게요. 한 번만 이메일 한 번만 주시면 좋아요. 한번 우리 배터리 시작했거든요. 이제 솔리스테이 배터리, 시밀 크리스탈 배터리.